Hello, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Frankie. I've not posted in a while, but this week, 13th to the 19th of May 2019 is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I did not realise that until yesterday, and as I consider myself quite an advocate for mental health and specifically bipolar, which I have, I do try and do my bit for awareness and things in the weeks, but it just sort of completely slipped past me until yesterday. So today's Wednesday. I'm going to pump out a load of videos today, starting with a video about psychosis. Funnily enough, I actually on Sunday did a bit of a educational thing on Instagram. My Instagram will be down below, and I will probably put various links down there for help and advice for people who are affected by this video. Scruffy little notes that I've got here, so you'll see me looking down and stuff. This is a very hashed together video, but this is welcome. Also, it's not going to be edited either, so if I mess up on camera for good. So, psychosis, what is it? Psychosis is classified as a mental illness. No, it's not a mental illness, it's a symptom of mental illness, which is classified by loss of touch with reality through the symptoms of hallucinations and delusions, which a hallucination is where somebody hears, sees, feels, tastes, smells something that others can't. And the reason why I say it like that, like seeing things that others can't, as opposed to seeing things that aren't there, is because for the person with psychosis, they are there. I have had psychosis since I was about 14. It was at the time put down to like a stress disorder, which is one of the causes, which I'll come on to in a minute. But yeah, they are very real, your hallucinations, and I like to make sure that I include all of the senses in those hallucinations, because it's not just hearing voices telling you to kill people and seeing things. It's not just that. You know, you can have positive hallucinations as well. So you might have a supportive voice, or you can hear the voice of a loved one, maybe who's passed away. Things like that. The most common hallucination that everybody, healthy or unwell, can experience is you're falling asleep and then you hear someone shout your name and no one else is awake, and that is a hallucination, but it doesn't mean that you have psychosis. But yeah, the reason that I say all of the senses is because you can get olfactory hallucinations, which is where you smell something or taste something, and that's a hallucination. And also, sorry, there's a really annoying spot on the screen, the display screen. I think it's just a little box that has gone. Anyway, and you can also feel things, which are called tactile hallucinations. I get tactile hallucinations. They're horrible. Some people feel like they have diarrhea. They don't. I personally feel hands on my body. I feel like someone's touching me, or like poking me, or pulling my hair. Yeah, it's very annoying, scary, inconsiderate, painful, all of those things. And the other half of the world of psychosis is delusions, so that is believing things that are not true. So like paranoia is the number one example. Believing people are following you, tracing you, out to get you, trying to kill you. And someone on Instagram said, like, how can you tell the difference between psychosis and paranoia? And I said, essentially, paranoia is part of psychosis. Not in every situation, but it can be. Some people do experience delusions and delusional thoughts, but they don't experience any other hallucinations. And the way that I basically described it is it's like a thought hallucination. I'm sorry if you can hear my tummy rumbling, I've not had lunch yet and it's 12:30. Thought hallucinations, so where you might see a man standing in front of you and jump in front of a car as a hallucination, whereas a delusion you believing something that is not true. A thought hallucination could be, I believe I can fly, or I believe the IRA are out to get me, things like that. Delusional thoughts that are not real, and then you get this I don't really know how to describe it, I guess bracket of delusions called grandiose delusions or grandiose delusions, depending how you pronounce it. I say grandiose delusions, I'm sorry. You're very precariously balanced in a series of books, meds boxes and an air fryer. Oh goodness, I forgot my train of thought and I can't edit this video, great. I think I was talking about delusions, grandiose delusions, that's what I was saying, which is a delusion of grandeur. So again, I'll give you a nice little example. Believing you've been ordained by God or by a higher power. So personally, I actually did have grandiose delusions. I had one where I thought I could bend metal, I had these special powers. There was one where I'd been chosen by God, this put me in hospital, I'd been chosen by God to dig up my brother's bones. My brother died in 2015. I'd been ordained by God to be able to fly, and the plan was I would take his bones from his grave and fly up to heaven, because I had been ordained to fly to heaven, and then make Josh alive again and bring him back. That is a grandiose delusion. Other grandiose delusions, if you've ever heard of the drama creator and practitioner Antonio Otto, he had syphilis, which caused psychosis. I'll get on to causes in a minute. I know this has been a really long explanation, but stay with me. I might put like skip times in the description, so have a look if you're getting bored with this. Arto had syphilis, and he was around in the days where syphilis wasn't really treated, it was just sort of like managing things. And he ended up boarding a ship from wherever he was living, I don't know where, to Ireland, saying that, oh god, what was he saying? He had a staff, which he said was a snake, and he was saying he was St. Patrick. Yeah, he believed he was St. Patrick, and he was going to Ireland to, I don't know, to be St. Patrick and to reign over all. And that is a grandiose delusion. Yeah, a delusion that makes you think that you are higher than you are, or that you have been selected for a special purpose. That was a really short explanation that I made really long. So, hallucinations and delusions, that's what it's all about. So on to, I've got like what, who, why, who. So, 3% of the world's population will experience psychosis or will have a psychotic episode at some point in their lives. So that's not necessarily 3% of the world right now, but 3% of people, 3 in 100, throughout the whole world will experience an episode of psychosis at some point in their lives. Some people never have another one. Some people will stay in a psychotic episode for the rest of their lives. Some people like me will be treated and have baseline symptoms. Some people, like people I know, will have a few episodes or a long episode and then achieve remission, which means it won't come back. But who is at risk? Everybody! Anyone and everyone can experience psychosis. And I say experience because you cannot get psychosis, you experience it because it in itself is not a mental illness. It is a diagnosis for symptoms, but it is a symptom of something else. And I guess I'll do the why before the who. It is a symptom of various other mental illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar. Severe depression. I know people who've had severe depression and had psychosis, and the psychosis is a symptom. Trauma, stress, like I was diagnosed with like stress-induced psychosis when I was younger. Well, I was 17 by the time I was diagnosed with that. Substance abuse, misusing alcohol, marijuana, LSD, various things. And also various other medical problems, physiological problems like brain tumours, Alzheimer's, Yeah, lots of things, lots of causes. So the people who can get psychosis, those people are at risk. But their psychosis affects all cultures and socioeconomic status levels. So it doesn't matter if you are rich, poor, it doesn't matter what country you live in, it doesn't matter if you live in poverty, if you live in the Playboy mansion, you could get psychosis. It affects everybody. And generally the onset of someone's first psychotic episode is between the ages of 16 and 30. Onto treatment, it is primarily treated with antipsychotics, which I am on. Some people have to take them for the rest of their lives. I probably will have to take mine for the rest of my life, the way that my life is going at the moment. Some people take antipsychotics, they get out of an episode and they can wean off and they're all good. Some people are on or off. There are a lot of different types of antipsychotic, used for various different things. I'm on an atypical antipsychotic. I think it's third generation, I'm not sure. Type in extended release. I'm currently on 300 milligrams. I am very open with medication. If you want to talk about it, drop a message in the comments or DM me on Instagram, whatever. Some people require hospital admissions to manage psychosis if they are self-harming, if they are professing that they might hurt someone else or hurt themselves. If they're a danger to themselves, they might need treatment in hospital. I needed treatment in hospital for psychosis. And yeah, you are generally admitted to an acute ward, sometimes a PQ, which is psychiatric intensive care unit, depending on your symptoms, but usually the goal of a stay for someone with psychosis is to get them over the worst of the episode and be able to discharge them safely back into the community, where is the best place for them, really. No one belongs in hospital. Therapy, various therapies, psychotherapy and counselling, to possibly talk about the reasons that psychosis happens or to sort of talk through and process it. And social support, so from mental health care teams, family, friends, maybe social workers have input, doctors, that kind of thing. So, you know, your social structure, whoever takes care of you and gives you life purpose, really. And then, okay, great, that's all of the facty bits. Then my story with psychosis. Okay, so I started, I didn't know, but I started hallucinating when I was about 14. I believed that I could hear people's thoughts, and I believed that people could see my thoughts if they were stood behind me. I had this belief that there was a big speech bubble here that projected words backwards, so anyone who was behind me could see and read it. In fact, I think I was younger when I believed that. I think I was more like 12 or 13. But 14 is when I started hearing things. So common hallucinations of mine were hearing one of my friends I used to walk to school with. I could hear his thoughts in his voice. And one time I answered back, like he was with me, and I heard his voice in my head. We'd been arguing, I think, and I was like, shut up, and then I heard him in my head, and it was like, ha, you can't escape. And I was like, head voice spoke back to him. I was like, wait, am I hearing your thoughts? And he was like, yep, you are. And it sort of escalated from there. I was never, I don't think at that time, I was 14, I wasn't, you know, your stereotypical image of someone with psychosis running around on highways with dressing gowns and saying God was gonna beam them up or whatever. Like, people rarely get that sick without intervention. But there was a few times where I was late for class because I could hear people's thoughts very loudly, and like they were mocking me or taunting me because they could see my thoughts behind me. And I remember going up to maths one day in year 10, and basically there's so many people around, and I just completely freaked out, and I just like hands over my ears and like fell to the floor like on the stairs, and I was just sort of sat there like, this is horrible. And then a while later, after everyone left, my maths teacher came out to get me, and I was like, because I didn't realise that anyone was around. So that was fun, and that sort of went on. I would hear a gate creaking. I started to see, so one of my friends in year 5, her mum died, and I started seeing her. She just sort of pop up, quite literally pop up in front of me in various places when I was walking around shopping, at school. One time we were in a car and I turned to look and she was there driving and looked at me with this really creepy smile, and I was like, and that really freaked me out. Yeah, things like that. Like I say, the gate creaking, and I recognised the gate. It was the gate across the road, and it used to happen at night sometimes, and I'd run over and I'd be like, to the windows, and I'd be like, is anyone there? No one's there. And the gate's on the latch. Sometimes it would happen when I was not around gates, when I was inside. And that's when I sort of started to doubt my own reality, and I was like, ooh, what is happening here? I used to have arguments with the mirror. Like, I would have an argument in my head with myself, and in order to sort of try and validate the argument, I would argue with the mirror. And I was staying at my friend's house once, and I was doing that and having an argument with myself in like hushed tones. And then I came out of the bathroom and she was right there because she needed the toilet. We were going to bed, she needed to brush teeth. And she was right there and she was like, were you talking to yourself? I was like, yeah, doesn't everyone do that? She was like, yeah, but like you sounded really angry. I was like, yeah, I was having an argument. And she was like, no, not everyone does that. And I think that was like the click for, oh, I'm not like everybody. Yeah, there were various things, and then when I was 17, my mood had been cycling a lot, and I'd go from months of depression to months of being really hyperactive, and so I went to my doctor. I had depression for a long time when I was younger. I think probably onset when I was about 13, 14. I started hallucinating and self-harming, and then yeah, my moods would sort of like cycle really sort of slowly, mildly I guess. Depression was like moderate, I'd say, but I was still going to school and stuff, so it wasn't severe. But I went to the doctors, and this doctor said, I think you have cyclothymia, which I will talk about in my bipolar video that's coming up, and sent me to CAMS, Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services, where they diagnosed me with cyclothymia, and depression, mild generalised anxiety, and a stress-induced psychosis, a stress disorder that was never really clarified, but yeah, those things. So I was put on a very, very low dose of quetiapine, which is not a therapeutic level for any disease at any stage. I was on 50 milligrams. And I think they use that in people with dementia who have psychosis. That is the first line of treatment. They try a baby dose of quetiapine or a baby dose of haloperidol, which I have also been on. And yeah, it didn't do anything. It helped me sleep a bit. Didn't do anything. And then when it sort of went, it kind of, I don't know, it was manageable, but I started dissociating, like, probably around then I started dissociating and like having panic attacks and stuff, and that's when I'd have like tactile hallucinations, or like the room would disappear, or I would lose my vision, which is more like PTSD kind of stuff. But anyway, psychosis. Goodness, this video is going to be so long. I can't see a timer on this screen, so this is probably at 20 minutes already. Be fast, Frankie. Yeah, I had... Okay, we went 2015 Josh died, 2016, early 2016, shit hit the fan with my health and my mental health. I started fainting loads, like 5 to 20 times a week. I missed a lot of time, like I'd either pass out, or as in faint, or just lose time, dissociate, come to places that I don't recognise. I'd miss my stop on the bus and end up in the middle of nowhere. Missed a lot of time in class, thought people all hated me, some of them did. And then I phoned the mental health team, my adult mental health psychiatrist, and I moved from CAMS to adult services. She said, you don't have psychosis. I don't. And I remember that she laughed and said, I don't think you have bipolar. She said she thought I had traits of borderline personality disorder. So she didn't want to do anything with my medication. She didn't want to treat me for cyclothymia. She didn't want to evaluate me for bipolar. She refused to acknowledge that my psychosis was real. I was having more and more things sort of crop up. There was a girl called Molly, and she is 12 usually, but she changes age depending on how she feels, which is actually how I feel. But like, she looks different, I can tell she's different, and I know that she's a different age. The youngest she's been is 6, and the oldest she's been is, I think, 17, but she's usually around 12. And she likes doorways. Her hair is black and green, she has green eyes. Her whole aesthetic is like a black and green. She speaks, but she doesn't make sound, I just hear it in my head. But I see her, I know how old she is. Sometimes she's very upset, and I hug her and I comfort her. And she started appearing more and more and more. And I had a koala that appeared around, I'd say, March time, 2016. And I had been put on 2 more antidepressants. At the time I'd been on cyclothymia. I've been on citalopram, 60 milligrams, because I'd been having intrusive thoughts and like compulsive behaviours. So my psychiatrist said, like, it's not licensed above 40 milligrams, and it stops working for depression at 40. But you can go up to 60 milligrams if you don't have a heart condition, and that can be used for OCD. So she'd put it up, and then in like January, she gave me venlafaxine to help with depression, and trazodone, I believe it's called, to help with sleep. She put me on, was it the starting dose or was it a half dose? I think it was 50 milligrams. Venlafaxine I think was 75, but I think it went up to 130, but I can't remember because I was not there with it at this period of time. Yeah, so they weren't really working, so I called the mental health team. I didn't want to speak to my psychiatrist. I called the community mental health team and I said, these antidepressants are not working, my mood is getting worse and worse. I know that quetiapine can be used to increase the efficacy of antidepressants, specifically SSRIs, which citalopram is one of them. I was already on quetiapine as is, and I'm not sure if I realised or not that it wasn't a therapeutic dose for psychosis, but then my psychiatrist wouldn't have put it up because she didn't believe that I had a psychotic mental illness or a mood disorder. But the team said, yeah, go up to 100 and then in a week go up to 150. So I did, and it didn't, like I say, my psychosis just got worse and worse, but it helped for my mood until it helped too much, and I ended up in, it just sort of all culminated in me having a full-blown manic episode, completely losing touch with reality, hallucinating, was in my own world more than I was in this world, and yeah, it was quite scary for my family, and I was quite unwell, and I ended up in hospital where I was diagnosed almost instantly with bipolar and psychosis, they whacked the quetiapine right up to, I think, it went up to 600, then it went up to 800, and it might have hit 1,000, which I can't really remember, but I know I went higher than 800, which is like a horse tranquilizer dose, and I was still not sleeping. And and this is bipolar. I wasn't sleeping. I was pacing, rambling, stimming a lot, constantly like rubbing my hands together, or like rolling my wrists, rubbing my arms, and then when the I do not remember this, but when I came out of hospital, my psychiatrist read the notes back to me, and she was like asking about if I was feeling better with like my hallucinations and things, and I was like, yeah, I guess, because I got down to a baseline level of psychosis, which is great, I can live with that, and I'll explain what a baseline level of psychosis is soon. And she said, she read out these notes, and basically I would become really agitated, and start crying, put my hands over my ears, fall to the floor in a ball and cry. And apparently if anyone tried to touch me, I would scream, or like sort of like lash out. I was restrained a couple of times. One time because they slipped out the door when someone had unlocked it, and I wasn't meant to leave, and like 5 blokes ran after me and fucking rugby piled on top of me, and I was like, hey, I'm on general obs, I can leave. And they were like, oh, oops, sorry, and let me go outside to the garden. The other time I was not very well, but I do remember it because it triggered a flashback and olfactory hallucinations and tactile hallucinations. So I had this man sitting on me, but then I could also feel hands on my chest, but my chest was on the floor, but I could very definitely feel hands, and like a stroking on my arm. That was horrible. Yeah, so the hospital was horrible. I might do one of those story time, my hospital experience videos at some point, but my camera's running out of battery, we're running out of time here, so I'll do a very, very quick Q&A. I am now at a level of psychosis called baseline, so it probably won't get better than this, but it's really manageable. I'm quite functional with it, as you can see. I can hold eye contact with the camera lens. I'm not all over the place. I'm not talking back to anyone or anything that you can't see in the room. I'm functioning. When my health gets worse and my mental health gets worse, I'm going to do a video on mental health as well, as in mental health, then psychosis gets worse. And it's quite scary, but at the moment I manage it really well. It doesn't really bother me. I sometimes hear like a little voice here and there, or I'll see the koala, or I'll know that Molly's around. Just little things. It's manageable. A few voices as I'm drifting off to sleep, or a few arguments in my head, but it doesn't bother me. I thought that the questions people ask on Instagram stay there forever. So I asked people back in August last year for questions about psychosis. And to be fair, no one else really asked about it generally. They asked about my experience, which is why I wanted to share my story in this video. So someone says, does it run in families? Kind of. There's not a known genetic link, but if you have a parent with psychosis, you're more likely to have a psychosis. And if you have a twin with schizophrenia, you are 50% more likely to experience psychosis. Not necessarily schizophrenia or depression, but just psychosis itself if you have a twin. I watched a documentary about it a very long time ago. Do you know that you are psychotic? Good question. I know and recognise my regular hallucinations, like Molly, koala, the man, which I didn't talk about, various things. I recognise my regulars. When I'm going into an episode, I will notice things are not quite right, or things seem strange, things happen without an explanation, I hear things without an explanation, and I sort of double check with people around me and I say, did you hear X, Y, Z, or like, did you just do that, or something like that, or like, did someone just pull my hair, and sort of be able to gauge that, okay, I might be slipping into psychosis. So kind of, when I was in that really manic, psychotic episode that landed me in hospital for 3 months, I did not know. Everything was real. Everything that was happening to me was real. I was told by this new psychiatrist that I didn't have psychosis, ergo everything was real. And I do remember writing a very panicked letter to my psychiatrist begging for help, because something had happened to Molly. The last time I'd seen her, she was 7, she was holding a teddy bear, she was crying, she had blood on her pyjamas, and she wanted my help, but I couldn't help because I couldn't go to like the other side, I couldn't go to where she was. But I remember, and again this is in the same friend's bathroom like a year later, or a couple of years later, and I was like on the floor hugging her, and like she was crying a lot, so I started crying a lot, and then I just took on her emotions, and it was very turbulent. So I wrote a letter from myself and Molly to my psychiatrist begging for help. And I can't remember the response, but I think maybe at that point she figured I might have psychosis. I don't know, but she didn't clock, she didn't put me in hospital, she didn't help Molly, she didn't help me, she didn't really do anything other than delay my treatment of psychosis until I was in the full bipolar thing. And I'll talk more about this on my bipolar vlog, but bipolar bear, bipolar blog. I often these days wonder if she had treated me correctly for cyclothymia and psychosis, would I have developed bipolar? Would I have developed that full-on psychotic episode, where I was more in their world than my world? That's my question. So these days, yeah, I kind of do know it's happening, but still everything is real. I don't ever think this isn't happening, this is all in my head. Of course it's in your head, where the hell else would it be? Brain is right here, duh. It's like being like, I had a heart attack. Yeah, but you know it's all in your heart, don't you? Yes, because it's a heart attack. Do you still have POTS? Yes, I still have POTS when I'm in psychosis, definitely. That doesn't go away. However, interestingly enough, when I'm manic, I do not feel any of my POTS symptoms. Possibly because my heart is racing all the time, because I am go, go, go. My brain overrides my pain, my injuries, POTS. I will faint a lot more when I'm manic than I do when I'm lucid and not manic, because I know the warning signs and I recognise them in my body. But yeah, I still have POTS. I just don't necessarily feel or recognise the symptoms. So that's an interesting one. Scariest moment. Oh, okay. In that hospital stay, there were some horrible times. And basically one of my regular hallucinations is the man. And I don't see him, I just know he's there. He is a shadow. He takes thoughts out of my head and puts them in jars. I just think, like, people who have never heard about psychosis before are going to watch this video and they're going to be like, what the fuck? Because I'm sitting here, like, really, like, lucid and being like, this happens and this happens, but, like, that's how you gotta objectively say it. Like, this is what happens to me. It's not happening right now, but when the man is there, he takes thoughts out of my head and puts them in jars, and he puts thoughts into my head that are not my own. and that's really scary, and he wants to hurt me. My cats tell me when he is near. I see him more, actually. I have seen him a few times in the last year or so, where I'd never seen him before. I just knew he was a shadow man who controlled thought. But there was an occasion where I thought someone was living upstairs in my house. Where did that phone come from? I don't know where my phone is. And basically, if I was scared, he would try and hurt me, and my cats would tell me by meowing. They meowed because they wanted fuss. But this is the delusion I had, coupled with, yeah, that's delusion. So that was quite scary. Every time I got scared, he'd try and hurt me and he'd get closer. But in hospital, the man, and he had some very evil animals working for him. He had dogs, rats and flies, and I one time saw a crack appear in the hospital ceiling, and it opened, and as it opened, these dogs, evil dogs, came down along with some evil flies, and the dogs were trying to bite my brain, and it hurt. I actually felt like I had been bitten here, here and here by a dog, and it was very, very painful. And these two really shitty HCAs just sort of dragged me off to my room, like, until you behave, you need to go in your room. And like all the other patients were like, she's obviously hallucinating, you need to be kinder to her. And I don't really remember anything after that, but a couple of the patients came and knocked on my door and were like, hey, you okay? And like came and sat with me and like talked to me and stuff. But that was probably the scariest moment of psychosis, when the dogs bit me, because I felt it and it was really, really painful. And they wouldn't give me any painkillers for it. Which is fair enough, because I wasn't actually bitten by a dog. It was just biting my brain. An assumption that I hate is when people say, oh, that person's like, they are so psychotic. What they mean usually is they are like psychopathic, like a psychopath, like have no regard for anyone else's feelings. But I remember a girl on my foundation put up a status about being on a bus with a really weird bus driver, and then a psychotic cyclist just cycled in the way. And I'm like, no, that cyclist is an idiot. He isn't psychotic. How could you tell that he is like avidly hallucinating and is delusional and has lost touch with reality just by him riding his bike in front of a bus? So yeah, that's psychosis, and that's my psychosis story as well. And I really hope this isn't too long. Thank you so much if you watched till the end. I know this has been a really, really long video and I've rambled a lot, but I'm so happy that you've watched it, and I would encourage you to share the video, because my channel is not monetized. I do not get any money for making these videos. I just want people to learn about mental illness. I want people to learn about psychosis. I want people to know what it is so that they aren't scared anymore. And yeah, so the only way that we can do that is advocacy and sharing. So please, 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 please share this video, like it as well. Please give it a like and leave a comment, even if the comment is, this is a comment, anything, because it helps the algorithm and it gets the video higher up and more people can view it. And that's what I want. I want people to learn about psychosis. Thank you! I'm thankful that you've watched my video, and I will see you in a video in just a couple of moments' time. Yeah, for more thankful thoughts. See ya!